she was employed by the Anglican school in St. Thomas. Bingo. The December vacation cruise was a 7-day thrill ride through the BVI, with stops at the famous Foxy's and even more famous Bitter End. It was a blast, Marcia's inaugural sail, and she loved it. That winter, Franz was recruited for his celestial navigation skills to race on a hot new CNC 61 called Sorcery for the upcoming Miami, Montego, Jamaica race. After the race, Marcia flew down and reunited with Franz in Mobay, Jamaica, where he invited her to join him to deliver the boat back to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They planned, party time, they planned to stop along the way at Grand Cayman and Isla Mujeres, but they had such a good time at Cayman, they stayed too long and had to skip Mujeres. The dash to Lauderdale became Marcia's first experience in blue ocean, and she took to it astonishingly well. Next up for Franz was to be navigator for Sorcery in the Annapolis-Newport race. Marcia was in Annapolis with him, but didn't have a ride for the race until the day prior to the start. Out of the blue, she was invited to be the cook aboard the yacht Solution, owned by Thor Ramsey of Connecticut. With Franz's encouragement, she accepted and immediately called her mom, Elma, to pick her brain on meals to cook on an ocean racer. Learning to, on the fly, fake it while you make it. Solution did okay in the race, and Marcia's cooking was a big success. Later in that summer, Marcia and Franz ended their year-long romance, but they kept in contact as friends right up until the end. Marcia came home to the U.S. and rejoined Solution for what would be one of the toughest races in history. 1972 Bermuda, the Newport Bermuda race. Bill ranks this with the 1979 Fastnet for the worst, toughest weather he's ever raced in. Gale force winds, torrential rain, dismastings, and many retirements. In the heat, I'm sitting here looking over my shoulder at Dave Gundy, who I think was aboard on the Penty with Bill, and they were dismasted.
Yeah.
For the second time. I'd been on the Bermuda race the year before, 2 years before, on the Penty, and we've been dismasted then as well, but it was nothing like the 72 race for ferocity of the storm. In the heat of the storm on board Solution, which did not lose its mast, Marcia famously strapped herself into the galley and produced the scheduled roast beef dinner, which not many touched until the storm eased a couple days later. Marcia now had a firm reputation as a good cook, a cheerful crewmate who never gets sick. She stayed in Bermuda with Solution and then did the 1972 Bermuda to Spain transatlantic race, talking 3,000 miles. While in Spain, she met John Browning of Manhasset Bay, New York, who was a regular on Jesse Phillips' new blazingly fast 56-footer Charisma. Phillips was looking for a cook and quickly offered her the job. She accepted, and Browning promised to help and be a right-hand man as needed. They became nearly inseparable for the next 2 years. After racing for and easily winning the Sardinia Cup, Charisma headed back to the U.S. and next won Class A in the Southern Ocean Racing Conference, the sort of the de facto U.S. National Ocean Racing Championship in that era. The boat was, because of that result, picked for the prestigious U.S. Admirals Cup team, which is the de facto World Series of yachting in England. The biggest race in that series is the 605-mile Fastnet. With the superb John Marshall as boat captain, they did great and shoulda, coulda won the whole thing. They were closing in on the finish with an hour lead and the race seemingly in their hip pocket. Then, searching for the finish light at the Plymouth Breakwater, they made a huge navigational blunder. Seeing a flashing light a bit nearer than expected, but looking correct, they changed course, headed for it, and as they went, double-checked and realized it was miles too soon and a huge mistake. They plotted a newly corrected course and headed toward the real finish, but cruelly the wind shut down. They drifted and then had to anchor just 300 yards from the finish line. They got a humbling third place, a stinging loss that those aboard painfully remember to this day. For Marcia, however, the pain was short-lived as she continued her magic carpet ride. While still in Leamington, she was invited to become the cook for Ted Turner's American Eagle after it was purchased by Bermudian Warren Brown and renamed War Baby. And you'll see a model of War Baby on the table in the back. Marcia did the 17-day transatlantic deliveries back to the U.S.
17 days, that's crazy.
17 days on a boat that does not meet the Coast Guard requirements for harbor sailing, much less. This was the old America's Cup stripped to the bone machine that I raced on with Dave in the America's Cup trials. And it was a wet ride then on the small waves on Rhode Island Sound, but boy, in the ocean. Anyway, she made it 17 days, and then did the 1974 SORC, the 811-mile Jamaica race, the 470-mile Bermuda race, all told about 5,000 miles on the crazy War Baby. Wow. After that wonderful chapter, Marcia closed out her incredible journey with a ride on what may be the most celebrated ocean racer of all time, the Kealoha 3. I've got a picture where you can see it later on. They did the 1975 Jamaica race, 811 miles to Montego Bay, Jamaica. She was the cook for a crew of 18. And as her reputation promised, she was remarkably calm, skilled, and cheerful. She was also ecstatic with the beauty of the boat, and as always, joyful with being immersed in the natural world. Famous sailing filmmaker Dick Enerson was aboard for that race, and he produced a great film about it, Kealoha to Jamaica. The film closes with a shoreside celebration at a resort, and Marcia and owner Jim Kilroy being tossed into the swimming pool. Soon after her remarkable flurry of sailing and racing, Marcia met, fell in love with, and married Rick Wakeman. They set up home in Wellesley, Mass. And had 2 children, Wiley and Richard. This brought a long pause in sailing for Marcia. Her entire focus became raising the children and coping with adult life. She was soon doing this alone and became great at it, despite increasingly insurmountable issues with Rick and eventually an early divorce. Through all of this, Marcia kept her friends close, including a bunch of people here. Thank you for coming. And the 4 guys who helped Bill understand her ocean racing story: Franz Schneider, John Browning, John Rumsey, and Dick Enerson, the filmmaker. I know Bill joins me in offering them deep thanks for making this story possible. And I also offer thanks to Richard Bennett, who did the Kealoha photo. If you look at the photos of great boats, you'll find most of them have restricted distribution, and you can't print them out and so on. But Bennett, who is a Kiwi, felt differently about things and wanted the world to see his photograph. So that Kealoha photo is a result of his generosity. I'm going to ask you now to say farewell to 1970s ocean racing, but it may not surprise you. There is a sailing sequel for Marcia. She had a home in Charleston, as you know, and was recruited to sail on a famous small yacht called Imp in the 2009 Charleston Race Week. So we can hear about Imp and about a far larger yacht that soon later caught Marcia's interest. A step aside for Brian Reef, a boat builder here in Brooklyn and a man well known in the world
You want to wear the hat? You say. You can't buy these anywhere. Spirit of Bermuda.
I'm gonna go home.
Yeah. Get a glass of champagne.
I'm told this is Marcia's hat. So So I can't, I got improv a little bit, because what's so interesting listening to all the stories is, I was like, 3 steps behind everywhere that you guys have been. I raced against Bill in Lightnings and Larchmont, never knew him. He was on the other boat. Raced against him when he was on the Penn, never knew him. Other, just other boats, Charisma, worked on the crew building Charisma at Miniford. Never met Marcia, but like I said, I was always like 2-3 steps behind, meeting all you guys. So here we go, Imp, or how Bill met Marcia. In the early winter of '09, while returning to San Francisco from an Etchells regatta in Miami, Bill was told that the yacht Imp was seen in Teddy Turner's yacht yard in Charleston. As Bill was close to finishing the writing of his book, The Legend of Imp, his interest exploded, and soon he was in contact with its wild Irish owner, George Radley, who insisted, please bring the original crew to Charleston and race the boat in race week. Bill organized the crew, and by mid-April '09, flew back from San Francisco to unite with the boat and do the 3-day regatta. All the crew, however, as usual, bailed out except for John Rumsey, who was living in Hilton Head and not far from Charleston. Now, John gave Bill the address where he could come to stay on James Island, and where they both met John's frequent host and friend, Marcia Wakeman. Marcia had a spot to put Bill next door at her friend's place, Bob and Barbara Lee, who were then at home in Bermuda. Next, they all went to Turner's boatyard and met up with the owner, Radley, and watched him get launched. Bill was in a surreal state of almost disbelief. It had been 30 years since he had seen the magical boat and 5 years of working on the book. This Ron Holland design yacht has won nearly every race she entered from January '77 till her being sold after the Fastnet race in '79. That race is dubbed the most disastrous race in yachting history. Yes, she continued to win races under several new owners. For this 3-day race week in Charleston, there were short crews, so they added Marcia and 2 others right off the dock. They ended up 3rd in class, and it should have been 1st had it not been for losing their huge lead in the opening race when they went to the wrong weather mark. For me, I call that SOS. Sailor's optional synopsis of a race. Bill would walk over each morning to Marcia's townhouse for Marcia's breakfast and listen to Rumsey roll on and on about some sailing adventure, bringing lots of laughs. It's fair to say John Rumsey has more sea stories than anyone on the planet, including one epic from the 1971 San Francisco Big Boat Series. He was on his frequent ride and was the usual driver of the 72-foot Windward Passage. They had a big lead in the race over Blackfin as they headed down wind from the South Tower of the George Washington's Golden Gate Bridge. To show them up, Rumsey insisted that he be lowered over the starboard side on a water ski, and was able to ski up the transom wake as Passage roared down the city front, to the joy and disbelief of hundreds of shoreline spectators. There are pictures that prove it. As Bill prepared to return to San Francisco and again back at the townhouse waiting for an airport taxi, Rumsey gave Bill an unrelenting sales pitch on Marcia's car for sale in her garage. It was a 1989 Mercedes 300 SEL of Marcia's deceased parents, who had died 2 years earlier. She claimed that it had a new engine, and Bill bid on it, paid her full price, arranged to have it shipped back to Blue Hill, Maine, to become a family summer car for the next 9 years. It was a great deal, he says. Bill never forgot Marcia's voice and her energetic enthusiasm for life and for helping others. He also remembered that she apparently liked sailing too. It was late August 2017 when Bill and his son returned for a short Blue Hill vacation from San Francisco, shortly after the death of his wife and their mother, Patty. This too was a catastrophic loss for them all. As they continued to grieve, it was the Mercedes-Benz. Suddenly, Bill's light came on. He wondered. He began to search the glove compartment to remember who it was that sold him the car. I think he knew. Research soon began, and eventually Bill called a mutual friend, Rich DeMullen, who reported, yes, Marcia was single. Marcia was single. It's the champagne I didn't have. Marcia was single, was still in Charleston, and Bill should not let her go. That was the beginning of all-out quest, and finally, a few dates happened, coast to coast. The sea meant to be. A year later, Marcia took the leap, and they became partners. And soon Marcia was united with her Mercedes in Blue Hill, Maine. She took good care of it, and it continued to drain hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, just like an old boat. The car was donated last year to Maine PBS. Looking back at Marcia's sailing history, those 3 days of racing on Imp in '09 was her last sail for 7 or 8 years. She did motorboating on the intercoastal waterways adventures with none other John Rumsey and old friend Peter Zant. They have stories, but her next sailing on the ocean finally did come, and it was through her connections with her lifelong dear friends, Malcolm and Martha Kirkland from Bermuda, and that brings us to the Spirit of Bermuda. The Spirit of Bermuda is 118 foot, including the spars, a 3-masted schooner, and purpose-built sail training vessel modeled after a traditional Bermuda-type schooner and the Royal Navy's 19th century Shamrock class patrol vessels. The Spirit of Bermuda was built by Rockport Marine and completed in '06 for the Bermuda Sloop Foundation, headed by Malcolm Kirkland, Jay Kemp, and Alan Vernon. The yacht's mission was to promote youth education, leadership, and foster character development through maritime experiences. It took the foundation from 8 years of fundraising, beginning in '96, in order to start for being built, and it happened. More. Design featured modern construction, but it has traditional Bermuda rig elements and embodies the historic speed and maneuverability of the original Bermuda sloop, celebrating the island's rich maritime history. Unlike the original vessel, which would have been built almost entirely from Bermuda cedar, utilizing the plank-on-frame method of construction, Spirit of Bermuda was constructed with more readily available woods, included Douglas fir and teak, utilizing the modern cold-molded method of wood boat fabrication. Again, the idea was for her to serve as a sail training ship for Bermuda's youth. The foundation chose a 3-masted design for one of the reasons the Navy had much earlier. It was easier to handle and less dangerous for the inexperienced youths who were to crew on it. The final design, naval architecture, and engineering of the vessel was accomplished in Newport, Rhode Island by Langdon Designs Associates, headed at the time by company founder Bill Langdon. Her construction began in '04. After her launch in August '06, she was sailed to Bermuda that October from Rockport. Now, years later, in early October 2016, a young 32-year-old ship captain, Paul Bracken, was hired on to deliver the boat from Belfast, where the boat had been summered where the boat had been summered, and they were sent up to Bermuda. Marcia was part of the delivery. Bracken related the next step was bringing aboard youth, staff, and supplies, and sailing her to Antigua. The trip to Bermuda went well with no issues. Now, with the boat loaded with 22 people for the 10-day trip to Antigua, their cook got sick on the very first day and stayed in her bunk for the rest of the way. Thank God for Marcia. Marcia and Sandy Harris stepped up. They rescued the entire journey with their enthusiasm, delight, and great meals. They participated in the Antigua Classic and shortly afterward headed back to Bermuda. It was Marcia's last sailing on the ocean. Paul deeply feels the loss and shared his high respects for Marcia. He is presently involved on the Cat from Bar Harbor doing runs to Yarmouth, Nova Scotia and back. Sandy Harris just sent this message. I'm very saddened to hear about Marcia's passing. Marcia was a lovely person and great shipmate, good cook at sea that touched many lives with her kind and gentle personality. Every now and again, one meets a special individual who shares your interests. It is happy and inspirational, fun to be with. Marcia lived a full life, and I'm happy she had someone special to share it with the rest of her life. Peace, my dear friend.
Thank you very much. Would anybody like a refill from our, just raise your hand if you want beverage. We're close to the finish line.
I'll go help.
Oh, good. I guess I'm up next, and I'm gonna kind of eliminate what I was gonna say because it's getting hot in here. It's called Trips and Travel. But exactly this day last year, my sweetheart and I boarded that same cat in Bar Harbor. Have you ever done it? To go to Nova Scotia, this exact day. You can drive your car onto the boat. So that was our plan. See the fall colors. Highly recommend it. I know you've done it, Sam, right? It's amazing.
Great trip.
It's a tremendous trip. However, we were on the edge because we didn't know when the last ferry coming back was gonna be. So we were, like most of our trips, we were on the edge. But it worked out great. We got to Yarmouth. It's a 3.5-hour boat ride. Spent the night there in Yarmouth, great meal. Then we drove to Lunenburg, great seaport town. And guess what was at the dock? The Spirit of frickin' Bermuda. Unbelievable. It looked all closed up, and then the boat hand appears. Marcia and he hug. Oh, it makes you cry. Then he got the whole boat tour. I got to see where she was cooking these meals, and she was talking about the sick cook that was sleeping over there for 10.5 days. But we did the whole island, and it's a big island. And Jamie, you talked me into it also. Go to Cape Breton, and we did it. We did Jones, Lewisburg, and Alexander Graham Bell's Museum, Bedeck, all the way around. The colors were psychedelic. And I don't know what it's like this year, but it was amazing. So our last stop is gonna be Halifax. And then we had to do the 5-hour drive to Yarmouth for what we knew was gonna be the last ferry. And there was a little storm the day before, so we kept calling, is the ferry gonna be gone? Yeah, no worry. Storm's passed, so we drive all the way to Yarmouth, get to our Airbnb at 4 o'clock, and I look at my phone, ferry's been canceled. The last ferry of the frickin' year. So that added literally 900 miles more of driving on to Canada, around. So the colors were good, and Marcia, as always, cheerful as can be, and we made the best of it. And that's about what all I'm gonna say for trips and travel. And now what's on our schedule? Soul reflections. Prudy.
So I'm married to one of these Spartans, a long time, okay? And I've recently given up sailing, but Bill and Marcia came to our house. We now live on the Hudson River. And when I think of Marcia, I think of her warmth, her sense of humor, her cheerfulness. And we did talk a little bit about sailing with Spartans. A little bit. These are some reflections of things that people sent to Bill after Marcia's passing. First one is from Susie Terry Davis, who was a classmate of Marcia's at Emma Willard. A myriad of nouns could describe my friend Marcia: kindness, inclusivity, sensitivity, and humor. Her wide, toothy smile and infectious grin made an immediate impact. I was the new kid on the block, now 3,500 miles away from home in Cali, Colombia, and had never lived in the United States. Marcia's welcoming smile went a long way to make me feel at ease as we both settled into our shared dorm room at Emma Willard. 1961 to 1964, Troy, New York was a unique experience for me. Not quite familiar with Americanisms, I felt pretty much out of it. The behavior, attitude, and normal traits of young women 15 years of age were completely out of my realm of normal. However, I never once felt that I was out of it with Marcia, and up until the very last time we spoke in early June 2025, we shared laughter and insights. Marcia's kindness, inclusivity, sensitivity, and humor were all a part of who she was. You will be sorely missed, Marcia, by all those whose path crossed with yours. Vaya con Dios. You made a huge difference, and I thank you from my heart. Adios. Susie Davis Terry. From Hamilton College, new friend, Jack Ducatley. Bill, I could not think of any good way of reaching out to your time of personal loss with the passing of Marcia. Perhaps one of my most enjoyable memories in the past 10 years was your 50th class reunion, where my sole purpose was to catch up with you and where I met Marcia. You were so lit up that she'd come into your life for the previous 6 years. It so warmed my heart, and I spoke to my wife, Kathy, about your happiness. That memory will stay with me forever. I can still picture us in conversation and Marcia sitting with a huge smile on her face. We will keep you, we'll keep you and Marcia in our prayers and always in our hearts. Jack and Kathy to Kathy. From Stockton, Buck, and Linda Mornell from Bolinas, friends from Bolinas. Where to begin? What can one say? Wishing all that has happened is but only a nightmare. We don't need to tell you what a wonderful woman Marcia was and how happy you two were together, starting on a new path, a new life together in a beautiful location. The stars were aligned. As you face each dark day surrounded by memories and now altered plans, may the light of Marcia shine upon you and help lift your spirits and navigate your new path as she would want you to. Stay strong and positive, dear friend. The next one is from friends of ours from back in the sailing days, who Bill and Marcia met down in Charleston. Bob and Mary Johnstone. All those J boats, that's Bob Johnstone. And Mary is a retired Episcopal priest. Bill, so sad to hear of Marcia's passing. She was indeed a delightful friend who had many things in common with you. Glad for your 7 years of good company with her. May she soar on angel's wings to that place where she will find peace, quiet, and a new life with all those who have gone before us. May our loving God receive her spirit with open arms, comfort you, and give you strength to move forward after shedding your tears of love. Rest well, Marcia. We shall miss you and are so glad we got to know you through Bill. You were a cordial host to us. We loved the gourmet lunch that you and Bill created in your charming house one Sunday morning. Bill, Bob, and I are here for you, sending love and hugs and asking if there's anything we can do to ease your great loss. Just remember, it was a good chapter in your life. There'll be other chapters as you are ready after leaving to move along. Different but full of God's grace and perhaps surprise. Bob and I are keeping you in our prayers. Don't hesitate to call if you need a shoulder to cry on or words of encouragement. Stay well, Bill. Fair winds and blessings as you go through this period of your life. Love, Mary and Bob. And a final passage shared by Bill's Quaker friends, Lynn and Ann Parker. Words written by the theologian Howard Thurman from his Meditations of the Heart. I share with you the agony of your grief. The anguish of your heart finds echo in my own. I know I cannot enter all you feel, nor bear with you the burden of your pain. I can but offer what my love does give, the strength of caring, the warmth of one who seeks to understand, the silent storm-swept barrenness of so great a loss. This I do in quiet ways, that on your lonely path you may not walk alone.
Wow. This is sage, but before I burn it, does anyone want to say anything? It's been a nice ceremony, and we're gonna party all night here. Lynn Parker, please.
You mentioned Jay Peterson. He's going to be playing with his son tonight at the coffee house at the Congregational Church,
Jay Peterson, to remind you,
7 to 9.
very talented musician, and
Really a great pair.
Mike Seitzinger, are you good?
I want to say something.
Good.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Okay, oh, sorry. Yeah, it's just very funny. Tomorrow
Dorothy,
in
introduce
Brooklyn.
yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Deborah Lothrop. Tomorrow is, I don't know which one of the Brooklyn Fall Festivals, but I met Marcia at the first Brooklyn Fall Festival when she first came to Brooklyn. That very day, she came into the Brooklyn post office, and the entire town was turned out. You know, nobody was looking at their phones. Everybody was wandering around, talking, having a wonderful time. And Marcia turned to me, she said, "Is this what it's always like here?" I said, "Oh, yes." So I just wanted to say that because it seems very poignant about, you know.
Thank you for coming, and thank you, Blossom, for coming. Mike?
Sorry.
Thanks, Billy. Mike Seitzinger, my wife Maria, we're from Augusta, Maine. I'm here because of this guy, and Marcia, of course. Go back 60 years. We were in Hamilton, graduated together, and we were brothers in the same fraternity. And what a band of brothers that was. We were still close as hell. And when Marcia made her final journey, Bill was kind enough to send me an update and keep me updated, and gave me permission to pass on updates to our brothers, and there are so many, and they're all loving. And what would ensue, I would send an update, and then maybe a week would go by before Bill could send one. I'd start getting, Mike, where's the update? How's Marcia doing? Guys were really anxious because they cared, and that went on throughout the journey. And you heard one from Brother Jack Cadley tonight, the love that's there. And Bill, I hope you know that love that we have for Marcia, you introduced her to our family, and she became part of our family. Thank you, and we're going to be with you, as you know, brother. Okay?
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Sammy, did you want to do one thing? Are you good?
Yeah.
Any other contributions? I'm ready to drink some champagne. But we'll do the sacred moment. Well, here Sammy wants to play something.
Oh, great.
Want to sit on that?
Special, yeah. Sammy and Bill's nephew got to meet Marcia here a couple summers ago.
Good. While you're playing, I'm gonna burn. Eight bells. Thank you for coming.
Love you, Bill.
Love everybody. There's a great fish chowder and plenty of champagne. Yep.